Central Bank of Nigeria extends suspension of processing fees on large cash deposits to September 2024. Your false claim of $150 million bribery, diversionary. Federal government replies, Binance. Bank of Industry, African Development Bank, others partner to deepen digital literacy. Oil prices on U.S. crude storage draw, Fed rate cut hopes. Asia markets mixed ahead of China trade data and Japan pay figures. The program is Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Very good morning to you. It's that time we talk business, and we start by telling you that in a notable policy update, the Central Bank of Nigeria has extended the suspension of processing fees on significant cash deposits until September 30th, 2024. This decision impacts cash deposits extending 500,000 for individuals and 3 million for corporations, which were initially subject to fees of 2% and 3%. The extension, outlined in a letter from the CBN's Acting Director of Banking Supervision, Adetona Adediji, follows a previous directive that had temporarily halted these charges. The initial suspension, as reported, is a relief to depositors handling large sums, aiming to promote financial inclusion and ease the burden on large transactions. However, the CBN's latest directive extends this relief, ensuring that depositors will not incur additional costs when making substantial cash deposits for an extended period. And the Bank of Industry, BOI, African Development Bank, AFDB, and the National Information Technology Development Agency are partnering to drive digital literacy in Nigeria. At the bank's Investment in Digital and Creative Enterprise Stakeholders Forum in Lagos, Managing Director of the bank, Olasupo Lucy, explained that with a youthful growing population and increasing urbanization, activities in the digital and creative sector have continued to increase, maintaining that it is imperative to further drive productivity in the Nigerian economy. According to him, the creative and digital economy is central to the economic strategy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's transformation plan, as the digital and creative sector plays a key role in driving employment creation and reducing poverty as well as inequality in the polity. He pointed out that opportunities like the IDICE program continue to exist for young and vibrant entrepreneurs to start and expand their business activities through the necessary funding, catalytic infrastructure, and push for enactment of policies that will help take startup businesses to the next level. The federal government of Nigeria has accused Binance Chief Executive Officer Richard Teng of false allegations bordering on bribery against unidentified Nigerian government officials, who he claimed demanded $150 million in cryptocurrency payment to resolve the ongoing criminal investigation against the company. Special Assistant on Media to Minister of Information and National Orientation, Rabiu Ibrahim, said the claim by Binance CEO is nothing but a diversionary tactic and an attempted act of blackmail by the company, desperate to obfuscate the grievous criminal charges it is facing in Nigeria. The fact, he added, remains that Binance is being investigated in Nigeria for allowing its platform to be used for money laundering, terrorism financing, and foreign exchange manipulation through illegal trading. Government emphasized that Binance will not clear its name in Nigeria by resorting to fictional claims and mudslinging media campaigns. The only way to resolve the issues will be by submitting itself to unobstructed investigation and judicial due process. The government also says, assured that it will continue to act within its laws and international norms and will not succumb to any form of blackmail from any entity, local or foreign. Now, access to capital is required at various stages of business life cycle, including startups, expansion, and stock market entry. It is the lifeblood of business ventures, allowing for growth and supporting important financial decisions. The accessibility of capital is pivotal for business development, and also the lack of it poses a challenge to these endeavors. Improved access to capital has the potential to not only encourage unemployed Nigerians to venture into entrepreneurship, but also act as a deterrent to brain drain. Improved accessibility to finance would have a positive ripple effect on the overall, like more than 40 million macro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria, which contributes significantly to the country's employment and the GDP. To speak on the ways of addressing these for economic development is a man who has expertise in organizational development, policy formulation and implementation, business development, as well as needs assessment. He is Kolawole Kainde. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you, Benny, and good morning, Nigerians, and good day, everyone all over the world.
Great. Access to capital has been said to be central in starting up a business, or if you need to expand, that is, if you're already in business, if you need to expand, you need capital. Is capital that key thing? Is that very important? Some say a little bit of capacity, but before you tell us which is most important, how have we been able as a country to support small businesses grow and for the big ones to get to expand?
Thank you, Benny, and glad you've asked a fundamental question that where are we at the moment? And of course, if you look at the numbers between April 2023 to April 2024, credit creation has increased, but credit leverage has reduced. What it means is that despite the growth in credit, the spread of credit has thinned out, which means that in spite of the 4 trillion growth that we've noticed or witnessed between 2023 April to 2024 April, which is about 17 point something percent, if just most of it goes to the high net worth individuals, the high quality customers, and most of all corporate customers. And back to the SMEs. Of course, you know, SMEs, they have challenges accessing finance, and not only finance, they have also problem with information of where these funds can be gotten from. Most SMEs rely on family, friends, personal savings, and recently crowdfunding, and so to speak, which the federal government is kind of frowning at the moment. For startups, they've been able to leverage venture capital funds, but we've seen that most startups that have operated in Nigeria over the last 7-8 years have tilted towards financial service delivery. And of course, that takes me to the fact that fintechs have started to pull their weights, at least to address the retail end of the market, and recently to also start to support small businesses. So all in all, there's been a kind of growth, but the growth is still insignificant, and I believe strongly with the interventions that the federal government has placed out. I think about yesterday or 2 days ago, we had that the first disbursement of the 50 billion for nano businesses have already commenced. We give credit to to government. But if you do an analysis of businesses in Nigeria, you know that a substantial number of businesses are nano businesses, from professional service providers to people on the retail end and all of that. So the federal government needs to probably go back to the drawing board and see how they can increase funding for nano businesses. You recall the last time I came here, I mentioned that we spoke about the SME funding, over 200 billion that the federal government has decided to earmark for that space, and we're waiting to see it really boil the economy, so to speak.
Okay, like you also mentioned, before now, it's been a whole lot of dependence on these interventions coming from government. Well, government is the biggest supporter in all of it. We're talking about some other private ventures, talking about venture capital to support businesses, then small businesses relying on family and friends to get a capital. How have we taken advantage of those credits that come in a single digit? Are they available? Smaller businesses accessing them to grow their businesses?
Okay, there are two major challenges that are impeding access to those funding. Because of the fragmented nature of SME business, there is an underlying problem that they have to deal with, and that's the issue of education. You mentioned the issue of digital literacy earlier on, but there's also the need for financial literacy. When businesses are operated based on the whims and caprices of the owners, it becomes difficult for them to scale. It becomes difficult for them to even position for lending with, of course, traditional businesses. Even with the one that the federal government has given out, the single-digit interest. Don't forget that those funds are going to be channeled through the Bank of Industry, and you will need workable business plans to get that done. Of course, the federal government, in partnership with SMEDAN and some other international bodies, have created an accreditation program for BDSPs. We call them the Business Development Service Provider, which I'm also one of them, to help small businesses structure their structure and articulate their plans so that they become easy for experts to analyze. When I talk about expert, that means the bank staff to analyze and also avail for them. That is one. The other thing is the impact of the microeconomic challenges currently bedeviling Nigeria and by extension the world. Inflation, you see, dwindling purchasing power of the citizens has also reduced the need for requests for goods and services. So that's also a challenge. If there is no demand, it will be difficult for you to create a supply. And those are some of the challenges that we need to deal with. Is the government doing enough? Yes, the government is doing its bit. But the NDB plan, if you had looked at it, you find out that the government support for intervention up to 2025 was about what the government was supposed to bring about is less than 20%, and all additional fundings are supposed to come from the private sector. But we can see that the private sector is weak and unable to galvanize that kind of traction to create adequate credits for them. And you need to give it to the government. There's been some other interventions for people like you in the structured employment process, the credit corp. There's so many policies that the government has initiated, but as you all know, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation has always been a major challenge for us to get these things right. I hope that we will be able to get it right this time, and probably make sure that we take advantage of those single-digit interest rates to expand the SME business space.
Okay, aside the buying and selling, talking about trading, which Nigerians are mostly known for traditionally, there is the services sector that Nigerians are actually keen into, particularly in the digital space, where you have young Nigerians who are kind of entrepreneurial in the sense that from the comfort of their room, using digital devices, they do transactions, they've taken e-commerce to another level as it is today. How is that going? How can that be improved upon by possibly partnership between government and the private sector, talking about taking off digital barriers in that space, talking about the business transaction space?
Okay, we currently are in the revolution, which knowledge is really driving conversation and driving business activities, which you rightly mentioned, and which is being leveraged through digital technology. Of course, you know that Nigeria as a whole is a very great adopter of digital technology. Of course, most of this digital technology and competence, you see them in the urban areas where these youths are probably in the creative industry space. Electricity is still a major challenge. Access to quality data. You've seen that about 2 months ago there was a kind of disruption in undersea where we had issues of cable cuts and all of that. So Nigeria too needs to start to build their own internet and technology space so that we don't have over dependence on Europe and America to provide this technology for us. It stifles innovation, it stifles creativity, and most especially we've had laws enactment. I'm sure you've heard about the much talked about Cybersecurity Act and of course the levy and all of that. All of these things increase the cost of doing business. And in as much as we continue to increase the cost of doing business, the final push and the final cost rests to the consumer. And because we don't have adequate purchasing power, you find out that business enterprises are collapsing because even the demand cannot meet the supply, and they cannot also even anticipate supply. So it's so difficult to plan for businesses, and everybody is just planning maybe 3 months, 4 months plan instead of a 1 year, 2 year plan, which makes planning very difficult and business operations really, really cumbersome and expensive.
Okay, highlighting more on some of those challenges which you mentioned, which is slowing expansion of businesses, talking about the inflationary rates, the scarcity in foreign exchange, and the inability of businesses to actually plan long term because of these fluctuations we have, not just a Nigerian thing, but a global thing. What do you think we should do looking inwards, talking about local content and also getting our own local solutions? Take, for instance, for whatever you're producing, is there an alternative in country for you to use as your raw material as well as processing?
Yeah, we need to localize our economics, and when I say localize our economics is because they said Nigerian's economy defies all economic postulations, and you agree with me. You see Nigerian's currency is one of the currency that depletes. You see shedding on 120 naira in less than 2-3 days. That's scary. So you see that those fundamentals are weak, and until we look inwards and one, start to create from within. Agriculture is still the quickest win for us as a nation, and we should gravitate from just cultivation to processing. And because that's also one of the challenges for exports. We've not been producing fit for exports merchandise products, and that is really impacting our competitive advantage as a nation. Of course, minerals still is also a major win for us. So we could request that instead of just exporting raw minerals outside the country, why don't we have factories localized there to create, to process to some level so that it creates more job. The idea is that when there is more job, that means there is more ability to spend. And when there is more ability to spend, of course, the economy will improve. So it's a cause and effect kind of thing. We need to create push. And I think about 2 days ago, the Central Bank of Nigerian governors said that there was so much money in circulation. So it's really a major challenge for us. How do we mop up cash and make sure that people still have purchasing power to really drive growth? It's really it's a real headache, and I don't envy the CBN governor at the moment. it's really a big deal for him.
Okay, having established that it's about a year since the present administration came to office, and realized that this challenge is actually on ground, and they decided to put some measures, some mitigating measures to ensure that the business environment gets friendlier. And part of it is the setting up of a tax reforms, a fiscal reforms committee, talking about the Taiwo Oyedele committee, which has brought forward some quick wins to the point of saying, okay, we can ramp up revenue for government without increasing taxes for Nigeria, as well as provide incentives for businesses to grow. How would you assess the quick wins, the suggestions given so far, and what should we look out for moving forward after this year?
Okay, I think Mr. Taiwo expressly stated that the recommendations that were given are still proposals, so that Nigerians shouldn't owe them to it. That means at the end of the day, the buck stops on the president's desk. But if you look at it by and large, the collapsing of tax from almost 60 something items to almost about 9 or 8 items is really radical and very wonderful. The most important thing is the company income tax has been reduced, and for creatives, just like you mentioned, people that are exporting services, and there is a zero tax for them. So I think by and large, the recommendations are impeccable, but just like we mentioned, and what the conversation has been going on Twitter, which is X, that's so all these monies, I hope we're going to use them judiciously, because Nigerians are bullish. The Nigerian government is bullish about revenue generation, and they've been generating revenue over the last 1 year. But it's time we start to see the impact of those revenue that have been generated. Yes, we've heard that there's so much allocation when it comes to fact disbursement to states, but we've seen that many states are not pulling their weight. There's still hunger in the land. There is still so much challenges around the states, and nobody seems to be really talking about the state government's contribution towards eradication or reduction of poverty in Nigeria. And this should be the conversation that we need to hold, and not because there is a exclusive list, there's a concurrent list, and you know, and the roles and responsibilities of the federal government, state government, and the local government, which has been totally emasculated and are there. So if we have the roles there, we have the responsibilities there, and now we have generated the funds, so let us spend the money. And there's always said that Nigeria does not have a revenue problem; they have a spending problem.
But I think we begin. Times have changed.
But now I think we have a spending need. We really need to spend more money so that everybody can smile. And just like the president says, say, let the poor breathe. So I think it's important that we let the poor breathe.
Okay, lastly, before I let you go, there's been this increased conversation around taxes. Yes, some have said proposals have come up to the need to increase our consumption tax, talking about the value added tax. But then some have said no, instead of increasing tax to commodities, day-to-day commodities that affect every Nigerian, why not look at the luxurious lifestyle of Nigerians and get to tax some of that? Some say, okay, like in Abuja, for instance, there are lots of properties lying fallow, nobody's occupying them. Why not tax some of those properties? What's your take in a minute?
Okay, you know, we also need to get about this mindset of whataboutism. That's why you're not taxing this, why should you tax this, and all of that. And I think the government is looking at that holistically. If you've been following the conversation going on in the National Assembly, there's been so much talk about property tax and how to get the best out of this. We know that Abuja is home for unoccupied buildings, and that means there are more unoccupied buildings in Abuja than even those that are occupied. And you'll be wondering when they say we have a deficit, a huge number of deficit in terms of housing and all of that. So for me, I think we just need to go back to the drawing board. In terms of the VAT, we have one of the lowest VAT payments in the world, all over the world. So And that's always been that argument and that conversation as regards VAT. And in terms of luxury tax, yes, let's tax the rich too, and let's continue to tax the rich. But don't forget that the rich does not operate in silo and in silo isolation. So everybody must be responsible, and everybody must come to the table to contribute, not only to contribute, but to demand full implementation of the policies and the plans of the federal government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kolawole Kehinde, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time. This is a conversation that is ongoing. I would love to have you here again.
Thank you, Benny, and have a wonderful day ahead.
Great. At this point, we wrap up Business Express for today. Keep a date with us tomorrow for another fresh edition.